everyone. Welcome back to the show. This is Fast Forward Life After COVID-19. This week, Jill and I are here talking about all things in the world of fashion.
And JD, social media and fashion go hand in hand as always. So this time we're going to talk all about TikTok. Right now there are billions, literally billions of videos under the fashion hashtag on the app. The toxic nature of social media and fashion is something that's been followed for as long as there have been followers. But on TikTok, body positivity is gaining traction. Curvy model Remy Bader has quickly become the queen of her realistic clothing hauls.
That's right. I believe we have one of the billions of videos we've been talking about here tagged with the hashtag fashion. We'll pull it up here in a moment. That encompass try-on hauls, styling tips, even posing tips. These are all over TikTok, of course. The online movement focuses on empowerment as well as social engagement, oftentimes calling out the fashion industry in and of itself, going as far as to call out specific brands for not being size inclusive. Other body positive TikTokers focus less on fashion and more on confidence in general.
Okay, of course, the next step, JD, getting the fashion industry on board. And joining us now is Tiffany Reed, Vice President of Fashion at Bustle Digital Group. Great to have you on this morning. How have we seen the body positive movement really change during the pandemic?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here to talk about this. During the pandemic, I think we all know that most people have been on the internet, right? And have been really self-aware. So Gen Z is just digital savvy, more engaged than any other generation. So they're a lot smarter about their consumption, and they're very cause-driven consumers. So they've been learning about sustainability, inclusivity, body positivity. These are all things that really have been driving them. And since the pandemic, everyone has been online, and online communities is where this conversation of body positivity has really started. Particularly Black body positive activists is really where the conversation has gotten started. And as you know, TikTok is an echo chamber. So hearing this conversation, it just gets louder and louder as you spend more time on social.
Are we seeing more response from the fashion industry itself? Are brands actually adjusting here?
So this is something that I think is a bit controversial, and people are going back and forth, and there's lots of conversations buzzing around this. It's that, brands are often, claiming to be plus size, but they're only going up to size 2X. And as we know, there's people 3X, 4X, and larger than that. And so what the conversation is brands that have a straight size point of view, and they're approaching fashion in that aspect, and they are making clothes from the same floral print you've been seeing, peplum tops, tunics, etc. And what we're hearing from the plus size community is what they want the same designs that they're seeing in straight sizing, but getting it in their sizing as well. And the industry has been historically slow to approach this, but I do think that we're seeing more movement. It's just slowly building and growing.
I was going to say, I have seen, at least shopping online, some of the models that are wearing clothes that I'm looking at are more realistic. They're not, 6 foot tall and weigh 100 pounds. So is it just kind of like baby steps? I know you just said the industry does tend to move a bit slower than, I guess, society.
Right. What I think needs to happen is that if we're going to include people and be inclusive of sizing, that they should also be in the room when these decisions are being made. And I think that might be sort of the gap we're seeing, is that there's not someone who actually has a seat where the decisions or design process is happening, where they can have their point of view. So I think having people behind the scenes as well is probably the solution there.
So we've seen brands like Fenty getting massive support. And on the other hand, you have a Victoria's Secret, which just seems kind of out of touch right now. It feels like it's good business to be inclusive.
Yeah, everyone wants to feel like their best selves, right? And so I think Fenty really has hit the mark on making everyone feel inclusive, but also making them feel like they were thought about, right? I think some of the problems that we're seeing with older brands that are a bit more dated, a lot of their consumers don't feel like they were thought of when the product was being made. And so Fenty is one that I think, not only from the size range, but also when they're displaying it. When Rihanna did her first show, There were women of all different shapes, sizes, colors, et cetera. And that's really what the world looks like. And so just, getting with the times and making sure you're hearing what your consumers want, I think that's really important.
I feel like Rihanna had the pregnant. Someone was pregnant and modeling, and I was
Everyone
pregnant
was
at the time,
included.
and I was like, I'm heard. I felt so good about it.
Yeah.
Um, Gen Z has been taking on so many of these just traditional beauty issues. How are the younger generations just breaking down these beauty standards?
Yeah, so there's a lot of TikTokers in particular who have been speaking up on this. Monique Black, I know, is one that people really love to follow. She's a curve model and she offers like incredible plus size styling tips. Rosie Blair is also a blogger who I think she went viral for calling out celebrities that they're calling as fat, and they weren't, fat at all. So she was calling people out. This generation, people on the app are sort of normalizing how we talk about larger bodies, how bodies of all types can be comfortable on these platforms. I think that's really the key, is making sure people are comfortable, and taking the focus away from the body and not having that sort of be where you put your worth. Because as you know, we're going to have good days, bad days. You're going to feel good about your body. Some days you feel like $1,000,000, the other days you don't. So really taking that, it away from your body image and just more having like self-love for you. And that's really what I think this generation, this Gen Z, this TikTok is making people be comfortable in these communities to talk about how they're feeling.
Do you think that this kind of inclusivity is going to reach high fashion on a large scale?
I mean, that is the hope. I definitely think that we're seeing, Fendi having all these major brands having plus size model walk down the runway. I mean, that's really key. I think representation is important in seeing it like in models and on the runway and in photo shoots. But I really think it also goes back to being behind the scenes and creating the product, because we need to make sure that if we're putting it down the runway, the samples are being produced and in the market, and people can really shop it, right? You seeing somebody in something you really love, but you can't shop it, that's not really helpful, right? So I think, yes, we want to see it in this luxury space, but we also want to make sure that we can find affordable options that people can shop as well, that actually does have a full size run. And like I keep bringing it back to people behind the scenes, because really, if you are going to try to create a product for a particular type of audience or consumer, you really need to make sure that there's someone in the room who represents that community.
Such a great point. Tiffany Reed, Vice President of Fashion at Bustle Digital Group. Great to have you on this morning. Appreciate it.